Hello, welcome to 2022. This is our first episode of Should You Take That Case? Welcome to our very first Medical Monday of the year. And the goal of our show, Should You Take That Case, is to be a resource for legal professionals who pursue medical cases, and in this case, that deal with medical records, by sharing their experiences and insights as defense or plaintiff attorneys. I am your host, Lisa Wade, legal nurse consultant and owner of Wade Nurse Consultants. Consider us when you have those medical records that need to be deciphered as part of your legal cases. Also, I am the creator of our wonderful LinkedIn community, the Attorney Medical Record Resource Group. And that's where we get all of our terrific attorney guests. We use this opportunity to get to know one another, and we're going to do that today with Ryan Weber. But first, before we get to Ryan, let's look over at our comments and see if anybody is visiting us live today. If you are, hello. Put an A in that chat or comment box if you are an attorney, a P if you're a paralegal, an L if you're a legal assistant, and a W if you are part of my wonderful group that I am also a part of, Women Owned Law. Put a W in that group, in that chat. And welcome if you are part of Women Owned Law. It is a wonderfully groundbreaking group created to connect and advance women legal entrepreneurs. So welcome all of you. If you are catching us live or catching us on the replay, thank you for spending some time with us today out of your very busy schedules. So now I'm going to introduce Ryan Weber. Ryan focuses his practice primarily on estate planning, elder law, and life care planning. His clients range from young families concerned about protecting their family, as well as aging individuals. Ryan focuses on the holistic approach to the practice of elder law, which seeks to ensure clients are receiving good care when needed and that they preserve enough assets with which to pay for such care. Ryan is also active in his local community as a community educator with the Alzheimer's Association. And now I give you Ryan Weber. Welcome, Ryan.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. You're my first guest of 2022.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Excellent. Well, Ryan, we're going to talk to you today and we're going to hear all about how sometimes medical records can come up during your elder law or uh, your elder law cases. You'll let us know. But first, we want to hear more about you. What led you to practice this area of law or to be a lawyer? Feel free to go back to childhood if you need to, but we want to hear all about you.
I won't bore you with the whole story from my childhood. I always knew that I wanted to be an attorney. My parents always told me that that's what I was going to do, and it turns out they were right. But I fell into the area of practice a little differently than probably most. I originally went to law school for sports and entertainment law. That was my background. I studied contracts. I studied negotiation. Any course related to that industry, I tried to take. I was athletic growing up. I wanted to be a sports agent, and that was the whole premise for going to law school. I got into that world a little bit right after I graduated. Realized it was just not the right industry for me. to have like a family, which I wanted. So I started practicing with a local attorney in my neighborhood. I'm in central Pennsylvania, right outside of Harrisburg, near Hershey, for a point of reference. So I did that for a good 5 years right out of practice. That attorney had some issues which required him to no longer practice law, some family issues. So I ended up practicing with one of his friends, and that's his friend had just opened up an elder law practice, and I just sort of fell into that area of practice, so to speak. But once I started, I realized that was what I wanted to do. It was more fit for my personality, for my what I wanted to do to try to help people. And so I ended up loving it. And I've been practicing it ever since. I even went to Stetson University and got myself an LLM in elder law, just so that I could be a quote expert in the field. So it's a little different to hear that I went from being a sports agent to an elder law practice, but the world works in mysterious ways, and here I am, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. All right. Well, question 2 is, how do you maybe not pick your cases, but I guess choose clients? Do you pick and choose? Are certain clients that are good for you, or do you ever turn down certain clients or cases?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I am a small practitioner, so obviously, you want to take clients and get those clients in the door. But I'm also fortunate enough to sort of be able to pick and choose. I guess the best way that I can do is I can sort of hopefully try to screen that client in that initial consultation and find out, what's the family dynamics, what's the personality, what's the issue, and then see if it's something that I can handle for a small practitioner such as myself. I don't litigate anymore. So if it's a situation where there's some strong family dynamics, I usually do refer those cases out, or if it's a situation where I can see, for example, it comes up in my estate administration practice. If there's a question on how the decedent died, and if there's a malpractice case or some sort of negligence case there, we'll refer that out to local counsel and work with them on the estate side, but then let them handle sort of either the litigation or the medical malpractice or negligence side of things. So, I am fortunate enough to be able to screen cases, and that is something that I try to do because, it makes sense to take cases that you really think that you can handle and refer out the ones that you can't. So just sort of like what you do as a medical consultant, you try to bring people together. What I try to do is if I can't handle the cases, to find somebody who can.
All right. That sounds like a good plan. Now, I know medical records don't come up often during your client work, but when they do, what are those circumstances, and do you have a procedure or protocol to review those records?
Yeah, absolutely. So medical records, while they don't come up every day, like you mentioned, I do elder law and I do particularly life care planning. And one of the differences between life care planning and a traditional elder law attorney is, like you mentioned, the holistic approach. So I try not to just focus on legal documents and transfers of wealth. We also take the approach that we're going to make sure the client has the best care possible, and how do you pay for that care. And so that'll often involve, medical records tangentially. For example, when we're trying to assess a client and figure out what's the most appropriate living setting, that's going to involve looking at medical records. So we're going to take a look at the doctor's notes and the hospital records and figure out, what's wrong with the client, what's their prognosis, what living situation is going to be helpful for that prognosis. That comes up quite regularly. And then also, my practice does a lot of work for Medicare appeals. So, for example, when a client is in a hospital setting and is admitted as an inpatient for a minimum of three nights, they're entitled to a certain amount of skilled rehabilitation services upon discharge. So oftentimes that care will end prematurely, and or the client just needs advice on what's happening with that process when it terminates. So that's going to involve reviewing the medical records to find out what type of PT or OT is the client receiving. What's the prognosis? Are they getting better? Are they maintaining? Are they getting worse? So there is quite a bit of review in those medical records on the insurance side as it relates to Medicare and those appeals.
Well, yeah, it sounds like it's good to have as much understanding of what's going on as the insurance company. That sounds important.
Right.
All right, and what, if anything, do you find the most frustrating, or what is a pet peeve for you regarding those medical records that you do have to deal with?
Well, the biggest pet peeve, and I feel bad saying this because I have the same issue, but it's the doctor's handwriting. It's not the greatest, and either is mine. I fully admit that. But sometimes when you're reading the physician's handwritten notes, and you're trying to decipher what those medical records are when they're not electronic, it can be very difficult because it's chicken scratch, so to speak. That's the biggest pet peeve of mine. But again, it's not something that I'm ever going to change because my handwriting is bad as well. But in terms of my process, typically what I do is I have a paralegal that works with me. I'm a relatively small firm, but I do have a paralegal. I make sure that she goes through those records and, I sort of give her guidance on what to look for. So, it could be a stack of a couple hundred pieces of paper. Depending on how we're billing the client, I'd rather the paralegal take the initial look through to segregate things and summarize things and not charge the client my rate. And then obviously what I do is I supervise her work, and I go back and make sure everything in there that needed to be reviewed is reviewed. That's good too for two reasons. Number one, it helps with the client and gives them an efficient billing. Number two, I feel like it's good to have two sets of eyes review everything. So that I'm not just focusing on the records myself and miss something, and I'm not just letting my paralegal look at everything and signing off. So it's sort of like a two-pronged approach that I feel works well. Obviously that requires having a good paralegal, and I currently have one, so it works for us. But my recommendation is that you have that process of screening those records and reviewing those records. Because they can be rather lengthy. So if you can have a system in place to weed out what you don't need, then you can focus your time where it matters on what you actually need.
Yes, I do understand. It could be a large volume of pages to get through. And some of it can be a little bit repetitive, let's say. So I can understand that. Trying to get to the meat and potatoes of what you actually need it is important. And another set of eyes definitely can help with that. So, what advice? You've given wonderfully good information so far, and I'm just trying to see if you can wind up anything else, any other advice that you have to share with new or veteran attorneys when they are handling medical records or deciding if a case or a client is good for them. Any more advice?
Yeah, I guess so. The best advice I can give is, even though you may not be in the medical profession, learn it as much as you can. You may not have the credentials behind your names, but the more you know about that industry, the better you are going to be able to do your job. I do review medical records in my practice. So I need to know what those notations mean, what those little symbols mean. I need to know the lingo, so to speak, so that when I talk to somebody like yourself, Lisa, I know what you're saying. So my best advice is, don't be afraid to learn that because the more you know, the more you can advocate for your client on their behalf. And just as a general advice to somebody who's new is, don't be afraid of this area of law. it's not it's a good area of law to be in. You know, it may seem scary if you don't have a medical background at all, which I didn't, but you can certainly put the time in to learn what you need to learn so that you can represent your clients well.
Excellent. That sounds like wonderful advice. Well, thank you for being here with us and sharing all of the useful information on how you manage medical records in a small area in your practice.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yay. Well, now it is time for a little Q&A. It's the time where if anybody is out there watching and you have any questions specifically for Ryan Weber, now is the time to get those questions together. He's going to answer them. Am I right, Ryan?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, while everyone is taking time to get their questions together for Ryan, get ready to get them together and put them in the comment sections. And while that's happening, it's time for what I call the very first commercial or sponsor break for 2022. And then we'll get right back to Ryan. Now, I'm just letting everybody know everyone is not completely clear about what legal nurse consultants do. So I'm going to make that clear for everyone today. And at Wade Nurse Consultants, it's all about review, research, and roadmaps. When we review medical records, we summarize and translate that information into human language, easily understood by judges and juries. And when we do research, we complete medical literature searches regarding topics attorneys may not be completely familiar with. And when we create roadmaps, we do that for injured clients or in cases of Ryan, people that have problems with medical history or disabilities, stroke, things of that nature. And we help create life care plans detailing their future medical needs over their lifetimes, including estimated costs of care. And to recap, at Wade Nurse Consultants, it's all about review, research, and roadmaps. Now schedule a 15-minute medical record strategy call by clicking the calendar link that you'll find in the YouTube description box for this channel. Schedule a time for us to chat. Now it's time to get back to our guest, Ryan Weber, for questions and answers. Are you ready, Ryan?
I am ready.
All right. It's time. We take a peek in the comment section and see if there are any live questions. And there's not any yet. So, but we have a way to deal with that, Ryan. What I usually do is I put your name and contact information inside the YouTube description box for this channel and ask people to reach out to you when they come upon you in the replay and just send those requests, those questions to you. Are you going to answer them if they send them to you, Ryan?
Absolutely. Yep. Feel free to ask away.
Perfect. We have a perfect solution because it looks like no live viewers today, but we are ready for any questions that Ryan can answer. He'll answer them quickly and respond as soon as he possibly can. We'll have his YouTube. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. It's my first trouble speaking for 2022. So what we'll do is we'll put your contact number and contact email in the description box of this YouTube channel and have people reach out to you when they have their questions. And Ryan, do you think you'll be back to should you take this case maybe this year later? Would you come back if I ask you to?
Yeah, whenever you'll have me, I'll come back. More than happy to.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you, and we'll see you next time. Before we go, I'd just like to remind everyone to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you have any legal nurse consulting questions, email me, Lisa at wadenurseconsultants.com. And catch us next week when we have another episode of Should You Take That Case? Catch us Monday, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a brand new episode. And thank you again for coming, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.